So this is Bruno Souza for Code for Life, and today I'm in the house of a fan of Star Trek. I'm actually going to interview him later, but you know, he loves Star Trek, man. I have never seen a house, such a cool house with so many Star Trek things. But I'm going to actually talk about Star Wars. So, you know, I'm here in San Diego, California, and this past night I was flying here to the U.S. and you know, American Airlines has now this Star Wars channel. So I did a mini marathon of Star Wars. Yeah, no popcorn, no friends, you know, no big screen, but it was a marathon anyway. And you know, I was thinking about you know, such a cool thing, such cool movies and amazing stories. And I was thinking about, you know, what can we learn about software development and your career as a software developer by watching Star Wars, right? So, you know, for example, one of the movies that I watched was the Force Awakens, right? So a very cool movie, has everything that we love in Star Wars. It's great, I love it. And you know, one of the things that kind of jumping out at me in the movie is that, you know, those guys, they like and they go after risk, right? They love to take some risk, right? And that is one thing that you have to understand about your career. You know, if you don't take any risk in your career, if all you do is be comfortable with the technology you're using, or the project that you're working at, or things like that, you can't really grow, right? And you know, the larger the risk you take, the larger the reward that's going to be in the end. So, of course, you know, you have to measure your situation in life and other things like that to not take a larger risk than you can, right? But you know, taking risk is important. And so you see in the movie, for example, right? You know, you see Han Solo. He actually went out of his way to take risk, right? It's not part of the movie itself, but it's part of the story that he actually went back into smuggling and probably because he was bored, right? And so you know, that's the same thing. You gotta take some risk, right? You know, Finn, for example, he wants to leave, right? He wants to run away, but he takes a lot of risk, and he welcomes risk, actually, going after him to save his friend. So, you know, some risk, it's extremely important that you take to grow your career, right? So keep this in mind. The larger the risk, the larger the reward. And so, but the one thing that, you know, when you talk about risk, people kind of think about, well, I'm just gonna take risk then because I want the biggest reward possible. But taking risk for taking risk, that's not good either, right? You know, you get Han Solo, he took risk just for risk's sake, going back into smuggling, and he didn't go anywhere, right? Nothing happened for him other than he got even in more trouble, right? So the second thing that was clear for me from the movie is that it's not risk you know, for the risk. It's risk with a purpose, right? You gotta have a purpose, man. You know, you gotta think about what is the thing that you want to do. You gotta think about why you're doing things. You have to have your why, right? Why you're doing things. Is it for your family? Is it for the money? If it's for the money, but why? What is that you want to buy, right? You know, is it for ego purpose, or is it because you love what you do? What is your why, right? You have to find out the reason why you do this, because, you know, it's a lot easier and a lot more important that you take some risk because you know that's what you want, right? And there's a lot of things that's going to go wrong. There's a lot of problems that's going to happen in your life, in your career. But if you don't know your why, you're not going to go after, you're not going to solve those problems. You're just going to go back of not taking risks anymore just because, right? Just because you're afraid. So don't, you know, understand your why, understand why you're doing it, because that's extremely important. Now, the other thing that's and you see this a lot of times, right? You know, on the movie, right? Because you know, Finn, he finds his why, right? He's gonna save his friend, right? Ray, for example, you know, she also finds his why. For a lot of times, she doesn't want to go. She wants to stay, waiting for her family, waiting for her father, you know, waiting for someone to show up. But then once she finds out her why, right, it's actually, you know, finding her family could actually be leaving and not staying, and then she goes after her why. So, you know, finding your why, it's amazingly important for your career. And so, And a lot of times what happens is that we want to take some risk. We want to find out. We're doing this for some purpose, for some reason, and then we keep doing it. We keep running after being busy all the time, right? We keep being busy, and we just do things for business purpose, right? And that's not good either, right? You can't just do things on the, you have to stop and think about what you're doing. You have to find out what are the things that you need to do. They're the most important ones. What are the things that makes a big difference, right? Because just doing things out of the craziness, right? And what happens in life throws a lot of things at you. And if you don't take risk, you hate when things that life throws at you. If you don't have a purpose, you don't keep doing it because you give up. But if you don't stop to think, you just take everything that life throws at you and try to solve it and try to fix it. But you have to do things based on your purpose, right? That scene that Rey is fighting with the Sith Lord, right? And she is, she's fighting and defending herself, right? So, life is throwing a lot of things at her, right? So she's defending herself, and she doesn't go anywhere. And then he tells her, look, be my apprentice. I'll teach you about the Force. In that moment, she's like, the Force, right? That's why I'm here. I'm not here to defend myself, right? I know what I'm here. I'm here to use the Force, right? And then she completely turns around. She stops, right? She stops defending only. She knows what she needs to do. And that's the same thing. Don't just accept things that life throws at you. Think about what is the most important, right? Otherwise, you're just going to be running, being busy, and never getting anywhere. You got to have a purpose. You got to understand what your purpose is and do things that bring results, not things that brings more business, right? Busyness, not, business is sometimes a good thing, but busyness, right? You don't want to be more busy, right? You want actually to do things that make sense. Okay, so 3 things I've learned watching Star Wars yesterday. There's one, taking risk. It's important. Find your purpose, find your why. It's extremely important. And stop. Think about what you're doing. Do the things that make a difference. That's gonna bring you a long way. Now, the one thing is, at the same time, all those 3 things in the Force Awakens movie was great, right? That made a great movie. But there's another movie that I watched yesterday that those 3 things did not exist. And I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. The 3 things from a bad Star Wars movie that I learned yesterday that, and the same 3 things, but you're going to see what happens when those things are missing. Okay, so every day this week, I'm going to be publishing a cool video about your career. And if you have any questions or if you have anything that you would like to know or anything that you'd like me to talk about, post in the comments below. And I'll try to answer absolutely every question that you send to me. See ya.